She says I am like a god now. I tell her I don't think there is a god. And if there is, I'm nothing like him.
The Watchmen comic book series created by Alan Moore is one of the most influential comic books of all time. It also came out around the same time as The Dark Knight Returns, so that and Watchmen were basically seen as the innovators of more gritty, realistic comic stories. Moore, who was also the author of V for Vendetta and this comic. I mean, at least he made Killing Joke. Anyways, as I was saying, Moore set out in order to create a superhero story that critiques the genre itself, and not in the same way that Garth Ennis critiques superheroes such as in The Boys. According to Alan Moore in an interview, Watchmen used the cliches of the superhero format to try and discuss notions of power and responsibility in an increasingly complex world, and he executed it amazingly. Almost every main character in this comic is not just complex, but also varying degrees of awful people. Even the least problematic members of the group still get dragged into all the awfulness by the end of the comic, but we'll get to that a little later. Also, I will only be talking about the original comic, but just for entertainment purposes, I will include clips from the movie. Alright guys, it's not as good as a comic book, but come on, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
You suck!
The very political setting of the Watchmen universe is one that is constantly being made apparent and blatantly at that. It's set in the United States in an alternate 1985 where Richard Nixon, having abolished term limits and covering up the Watergate scandal, remained president for multiple terms. The United States also won the Vietnam War thanks to the omnipotent Dr. Manhattan's intervention, leading to unchecked government power and escalating Cold War tensions with the Soviet Union. In this alternate paranoid authoritarian America, costume vigilantes were once used as tools of the state, but during the events of the Watchmen, most of these heroes are either retired, killed, or still working for the government. Except for this little guy, we'll get back to him. In summary though, the setting accomplishes exactly what Alan Moore was looking for. Discussions of power either from the government, vigilantism, money, even morals. But who are these people and how do they interact with power? The comedian whose death starts the plot of the comic serves as a brutal enforcer for American interests. He represents the ultimate cynic, embracing and laughing at the chaos and violence of the world rather than trying to fight against it. A rapist and a murderer, he serves as a dark parody of American militarism and what we've done abroad. Through flashbacks, we see how the comedian views the Vietnam War and the depraved things he does, such as impregnating a Vietnamese woman and then proceeding to kill her in cold blood after a heated exchange. As a government-sanctioned enforcer, he actively enjoys holding power over others and helping the United States do tasks such as suppressing domestic unrest, embodying what he calls the American dream. I would say that the most accurate description of his ideology is what Matt Christman from Chapo Trap House calls Zen fascism.
Why are you torturing yourself? Why are you like,
oh, this is actually bad, and oh no, we're exploiting all these people.
yeah, but that can't change it. You're in this situation. Just eat the fucking slider, drink the goddamn beer, and enjoy yourself.
The acceptance of chaos and oppression as natural, even amusing. Anyone who actually cares about life and others are fools destined to be laughed at because there's nothing they can do about anything. He doesn't believe in justice, but he does believe in America and hedonism, or at least the raw, violent idea of its imperialism and power. As arguably the most recognizable character of the Watchmen, Rorschach is one of the rogue vigilantes that I brought up earlier. My interpretation of Rorschach as a character was that his vigilantism reflected the era's law and order extremism and the cold commitment to prioritize punishment over rehabilitation. He embodies a deeply reactionary and antisocial worldview shaped by his traumatic upbringing and disgust for the moral decay he perceives in society. He sees New York City as a festering pit of depravity where criminals, liberals, and the apathetic masses alike contribute to societal collapse. His black and white morality leaves no room for nuance. To him, even minor offenses warrant brutal punishment, as he believes compromise and leniency only accelerates decay. This fanaticism isolates him, making him incapable of functioning in normal society, and he's kind of an outcast among the other Watchmen. He rejects companionship, scoffs at empathy, and operates as a lone force of retribution, embodying reactionary ideals that resist societal progress. His misogyny in particular stems from his mother's profession as a sex worker, a fact that he resents and is traumatized by, associating her with the moral corruption he despises.
Women's breasts draped across every billboard, every display, littering the sidewalk, was offered Swedish love and French love, but not American love. American love, like Coke in green glass bottles, they don't make it anymore.
This hatred extends to women in general, whom he often views as either weak, complicit in societal degradation, or morally impure. He even goes as far as to say that the comedian's act of rape was a moral lapse.
Oh, that's no. In the sense that, no. You know what I mean?
As a side note, it's also really funny because Rorschach is like so beloved, and Alan Moore like wanted to depict him as a horrible, like unlikable, stinky person. And just people love him, and it just gets him mad as shit. And even going so far as to say that the entire series was a failure. But when we get to the part about the ending, I'll argue as why he's being too hard on himself. And in Watchmen, even the seemingly noble characters are flawed. Night Owl, despite his kindness, is a passive man who only feels alive when playing the hero, highlighting his dependency on the mask. It's even a plot point that he gets erectile dysfunction when not wearing the suit. His romantic interest throughout the story, Silk Spectre, also struggles with her mother's legacy and her own identity, often making decisions based on resentment rather than her own path and convictions. And although she isn't really talked about a lot, I really enjoyed Silk Spectre's storyline. Although she kinda has the role of being the love interest of Night Owl and Dr. Manhattan, you get a lot of flashbacks and world building through her perspective. Within the narrative, it's really only Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan who transcend national allegiances, with one playing God and the other becoming one. Yet they're both products of this world's political decay. The ever-present nuclear countdown doesn't just loom in the background, it warps every character's morality, proving that in this world, even those who claim to stand above the system are ultimately defined by it. Even though Dr. Manhattan is basically an omnipotent god that's experiencing all of time simultaneously, he still is affected by all the characters in the story. It'd be an easy cop-out just to have an OP god character be evil or just magically solve every problem within the narrative, but he's more complex than that.
Pregnant woman gunned her down, bang. And you know what? You watched me. You could have changed the gun into steam, or the bullets into mercury, or the bottle into snowflakes. You could have teleported either of us to goddamn Australia, but you didn't lift a finger. You don't really give a damn about human beings. I've watched you.
When I mean complex, I mean that he goes for 16-year-olds, which I guess in his perception, she's simultaneously also 18 and 50 and 32. It's weird. I didn't like that part of the comic. And if you're already a fan of the Watchmen, you may be wondering, why am I not talking about Ozymandias and Dr. Manhattan that much? Well, that's because of...
I get it! I saved Earth from hell. Next, I'll help her towards utopia. It is as Ramesses said, Canaan is devastated, Ashkelon is fallen, Gezer is ruined, Yenoam is reduced to nothing, Israel is desolate, and her seed is no more, and Palestine has become a widow for Egypt.
As one of the biggest plot twists in history, Ozymandias finally reveals his plan at the end of the story. In order to avoid a nuclear Armageddon between the United States and the USSR, Ozzy stages a global false flag attack. He teleports giant man-made creatures across the globe, killing millions. And to add insult to injury, the main cast can't do anything because, well...
Do you seriously think I'd explain my master stroke if there remained the slightest chance of you affecting its outcome? I did it 35 minutes ago.
While one of the major themes of Watchmen is power, one of the main themes of its ending is about truth and morality. All of the main characters end up at Ozymandias' base in Antarctica, and subsequently all of their ideologies and their power complexes combine, along with how much they actually care about the truth and justice. To Ozzy, the ends justify the means, and he sees it as a job that someone had to do. In a conversation with Dr. Manhattan, he states, "What's significant is that I know I've struggled across the backs of murdered innocents to save humanity, but someone had to take the weight of that awful necessary crime." Ozymandias embodies the idea of compromising truth for what he perceives as the greater good, rationalizing his actions as necessary for humanity's survival and progress. His manipulation of world governments and the truth was a calculated move to achieve his desired outcome, challenging the conventional moral framework of the other characters. He blatantly says that he has them in checkmate. Now, will they tell the truth and risk the end of the world again, or will they stay quiet and carry the guilt? Although this isn't a permanent fix, with Dr. Manhattan telling Adrian that nothing ever ends. But more poetically, Ozymandias' lie will eventually crumble, but the golden age of his actions are great and spectacular in the moment, much like the poem of the same name by Percy Shelley. If the people who side with Ozymandias' point of view had a button that would kill 10 million people at once, but ensure world hunger ends forever, they would probably press it. and it would be hard to argue a reason why they shouldn't. But once again, the genius of the characters and the plot come into play, because we have one giant obstacle in Ozzy's way, which is Rorschach. Although Dr. Manhattan, Silk Spectre, and Night Owl all agree that avoiding a nuclear holocaust and keeping Ozzy's lie under tight lips is the best way forward, these three actively know that they're complicit in covering up the deaths of millions, but much like Ozymandias, they see it as being for the greater good. However, they differ from Ozymandias in the sense that they would never have the stomach to actually orchestrate the plan from start to finish themselves, so they're stuck in the middle in some sort of disastrous complicity. However, Rorschach refuses to compromise on the truth. When confronted by Dr. Manhattan, he states that evil must be punished and that he's on his way back to America to tell the truth of the New York City attack, along with all the other attacks around the world. Dr. Manhattan tells Rorschach that he can't allow him to do that, but unfortunately Rorschach's unwavering loyalty to his moral code leads to his gory demise.
Do it, Rorschach. Do it!
Rorschach makes up the final category of people when faced with the value of truth, that the truth should be told no matter what the consequences are. Rorschach makes good on his word and commits to the truth even in the face of nuclear Armageddon and death. This is what makes him a beloved character in a lot of Watchmen fans' hearts, but he's a hypocrite. In a journal entry, Rorschach talks about his upbringing and his ideas of his father, and that his father supported Harry Truman. In this timeline, Japan was still nuked twice, and Rorschach writes, "I like President Truman, the way Dad would have wanted me to. He dropped the atomic bomb on Japan and saved millions of lives, because if he hadn't have, then there would have been a lot more war than there was and more people would have been killed." Ozzy's entire motivation for what he did was to gain world peace by sacrificing millions of people, which worked out in the end. Now, some people can argue that Rorschach's issue was simply with the truth, but then again that just loops back to his black and white sense of justice. How could he claim that dropping 2 atomic bombs was the utilitarian option in order to stop more war and stop more death, but he condemns Ozzy for doing the same? I don't see this as a plot hole though, I see it as a deeper layer to the ending that a lot of people kind of gloss over. Rorschach is seen as a hero in the end by submitting his journal and trying to expose Ozymandias, where it's heavily implied that a newspaper picks it up and publishes it. But I don't think any singular character of this entire story was a hero. In Watchmen there are no true heroes, only damaged people in costumes, each failing in their own way. Their flaws make them compelling, but they also serve as a critique of heroism itself, proving that power and morality are rarely compatible. Power, whether wielded by walking gods, costumed humans, or those in positions of authority, can corrupt even the noblest intentions. Ozymandias' actions represent the ability of rich elites and the government playing God over the masses and shaping our material conditions and reality. On the other hand, Rorschach in the fate of his journal symbolizes the hunt for truth, and challenging the notion that anyone should have absolute rule over the masses, even in the name of preventing greater calamities. Watchmen thus serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of unchecked power and the ethical complexities inherent in wielding it. How far would you be willing to see true reality and achieve mental freedom? Would you risk your life for it? Would you risk other people's lives for it? And is a peaceful lie better than a violent truth? Those are questions for you to decide. And not just because I have homework to do and I can't make an hour-long video on this. But in summary, it wouldn't be a stretch to say that Watchmen is the greatest political superhero story of all time. If you got this far, thank you for watching. Thank you so much. I'm sorry, I know this video could have been 3.5 hours, but I have like a really dense summer semester. I'm almost done though, but yeah, more content on the way. I should have a video. If you really got this far, I have a video coming out Friday. So back-to-back uploads. So love you guys. Thank you for all the support, and see you in the next video. Bye.